Well, hello peeps. I thought I'd do a talking video. My sheep can hear me in the background. Right, what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about Rory Stewart, Alastair Campbell, Rory Stewart's missus, Rory Stewart's father. You hear a lot in the media about, oh, they've cut his funding. So USA Aid was giving Rory Stewart's wife millions upon millions for her charity. And basically they were going to one of these savage countries and showing these people why modern art works. Nothing really. It's a way of giving in the privileged people in our country a big wage. That's what it's all about. Paying them off, paying them off. That's what it's all doing. Paying off the richer in society. Rory Stewart is a nobody. The only reason he's a somebody is because his dad was head of MI5. Or MI6, one of the two. MI6, I think it was. So he hasn't done anything. He hasn't become a leader. He wasn't any good as an MP. I don't know, has he actually been an MP? Dreadful person. He wasn't able to be a leader. And I was wondering why they were marching him around. And now I can see it's USA Aid. And his dad has gotten him a lot of dosh to pay for his podcast. So he's doing a podcast with Alastair Campbell. For those of you who don't know, he was basically Tony Blair's spin doctor. And he helped Blair lie to get into Iraq years ago. So he's a war criminal, in my opinion. Funny enough, I read his diaries. Lots of people haven't done that. And he was an alcoholic back then. Remember, he was in the top part of the top 5 in the country. And he was an alcoholic, a horrible person. One of the worst people you can get for the way he was treating women. And in his diary, he writes how he used to get so drunk, he used to run around absolutely bollock naked around the New Labour conferences, and he was arrested, I don't know, multiple times because he lost his marbles. And there he is, a war criminal, Rory Stewart, having a podcast that nobody watches. More people watch me than watch his podcast. That's how shit they are. And you can see now that USA Aid, that's what it was doing. And in the UK for decades, it's been basically giving money for free to people who are a waste of time just because they're in the establishment. That's what's actually going on. They don't care that he's a war criminal. He just says what they think. They would have Hitler on their side if they would. It's a crazy world we live in. It's a crazy world we live in. To think that USA Aid was a CIA, basically money laundering system, where they were giving money to Afghan companies to plant drugs and then bring them drugs into America to help people get killed, overdosing and stuff. That's the kind of people we got. And it was paying for all the anti-Trump press. Now, whatever you think of Trump, and I totally understand how some don't like him. Sorry, I got an itch in my nose. I totally understand why people don't like him. I can totally understand the other point of view. But what was happening, USA Aid was paying all the press, 6,000 journalists, all over the Western world, in all different countries, to put out whatever they wanted to put out. So all the BBC and all ITV and S4C, Channel 4, all their news comes from the Associated Press. And the Associated Press and the World Service were getting their news from the CIA and MI6. Now that is a fact. And that's what was happening in the 1984 George Orwell novel. And those people in the brown suits were civil servants, politicians, and they were kept apart from the rest of them because they just wanted to get the news they wanted out when they wanted it. Any news that they didn't want, they would burn and destroy. They'd put it down the thing, it'd go on fire. They kept people in a state of permanent, frightened, permanently frightened for the sake of a war against Russia, exactly what's going on now, because they realized they were going to have so much hassle after the COVID, they needed something to keep people occupied. And that's why we had this onslaught of things with on Facebook where you had all the Ukrainian flags and blah de blah de blah, because USA Aid and the security services wanted something to take our minds off us and get us so we're scared to death and we want to go and murder somebody. That's what it's all about. They want to keep you scared to death. And I don't know what's going to happen about it all. We can see it all out in the open. In America now, God, I wish I got this itch in my nose. In America now, they've got another guy in charge of the FBI, and he thinks he's going to do something, but from what I gather, these people who are already there in the FBI are using a different system of communicating to each other. So they're using a sort of a WhatsApp messaging service, and they're communicating still as they used to on this other service. I forget the name of it now. And they're ignoring what they've been told to do by the president. So, yes, they'll do anything. Now, this stuff is supposed to come out about Kennedy and Martin Luther King and the other Kennedy that was killed. Lots of stuff coming out there. A lot of the main stuff is Martin Luther King was an absolute womanizing. Now, I liked him. Now, I think the reason they bopped him off is because he was getting people on the Democrat side to realize that he wanted everybody to like each other, and he didn't like racism. What he wanted people was to not look at people's color of their skin, and that's what I believe in. You're either a good or a bad person. Now, the Democrats don't want that, and the Labour Party don't want that. And these left-wing parties don't want that because they realize we'd all agree with each other otherwise. They're making things happen. Anyway, I think he was getting, in America, he was getting both sides together, sort of like Kennedy did, and that's why he had to go. So anyway, what are these new things that come out about him? Well, he was a serial womanizer. He had about 50 girlfriends in different areas, and he also, the FBI had also had him on tape when him and somebody else was raping a good woman. Now, this sounds ridiculous, but this is all down. It was all, I heard the guy talking about it, you've seen the evidence. Now, they actually had him taped because they were surveilling him while this was going on. Him and another guy had raped some woman. Then they sent him a letter, which is in these new files that was to be released, that said, we're giving you 2 months to resign or we're going to kill you. Now, that is no joke. That's what happened. Now, with Kennedy, there's lots of stuff to come out about him as well. He was an unbelievable womanizer. He was a sex addict and a drug addict. But on the whole, he wanted to do the right thing for the world. Now, this is what they reckon happened. His brother, the other one that was killed, had done a lot of stuff to the mafia, and he wanted to bring the mafia down. Now, when Kennedy came to power, they did a few things that really upset the mafia. And the CIA and the mafia helped Kennedy get into power, from what I gather. And they did that on the reasoning that after he got into power, he wouldn't go after him. Now, this is all documented stuff that's supposed to come out, okay? So they helped Kennedy to get into power, and when he got into power, his brother went straight after him. Now, they reckon that that's what happened, and it sent the mafia into a fucking frenzy. And they were determined to bop him off because he broke his deal with them. Now, it seems like the guy in charge of the FBI at the time, I'm trying to remember his name now. I forget his name. And there's another guy in charge of the CIA. And they were all working together because they realized Kennedy was bad for him because he didn't like the way the CIA and the security services were working. So this is what they reckon happened. They reckon they did some kind of an operation with Oswald. Oswald was a spy for the CIA. and he was or the FBI, one of the two. So he went to Russia in his early life, and he was there for a while. And then he went to Cuba, and they were supposed to have set this all up in Cuba. So, from what I understand, when he was shot, Kennedy was shot, Oswald didn't realise he was going to be the patsy. He thought he was going to had an escape plan, but nothing escaped about it. He was the patsy. So then, when this has all gone down, there was supposed to be two shooters, two shooters from two different directions at him, and even the doctors who did the autopsy say that was what happened. One had him in the throat and one in the head. So what they're saying then is, once they realised that they got the man, and they had Oswald, they had to get him out of the way because he could grass him up. So then they called in the mafia, and the mafia got the other guy to pop him off before he could say anything. Because his first phone call, Oswald's first phone call, was to his FBI or CIA handler. And all that information was removed during the Warren Commission. Now, they found another 2,500 papers all on this, and pretty dodgy stuff. But I do think the worst one is going to be Martin Luther King, because when he was assassinated, they threatened him to kill him within 2 months unless he resigned. Now, this is all stuff that's going to come out now, and Martin Luther's family don't want this out because they're going to be talking about him raping somebody and being a serial womanizer. So that's coming out now in the next few weeks. It could be interesting. Very, very interesting. Like I said, what Trump is doing now in America, I do like it, what he's doing, but I can't see him. They're going to bop him off some shape. I can see it happening. There's no way they're going to let all this stuff come out. But there's some serious nutcases. But there we are. So there's Gaz's speech today. It's pissing down outside, and I had 5 minutes, so I thought I'd do one. Sat on my quad bike. So, please subscribe down here. And Mum is a lot better, by the way. All the best, Gaz.